All right, fantastic. Thank you everyone for joining me today. My name is Justin Seitz. I am the crazy person that leads up the team at Dark River Systems, and actually a big chunk of our team is here today. Not everybody, but a good chunk of it. And today we're going to be talking about dark web investigations, how we can use Hunchly to do dark web investigations on Tor. In specifically, we haven't done one of these in a while, so I'm not going to be doing a big, deep technical dive into the ins and outs of everything Tor or anything related necessarily. Often we get questions about Bitcoin investigations, that kind of thing. But what we will talk about is how to take regular old Hunchly, start it with nothing, and how to get up and running with some dark web investigations, kind of get your feet wet. And from there, of course, investigations are always context specific. So the next time you encounter a dark web request or you have to go and do something on Tor, you're comfortable documenting your work. So with that all being said, the session is going to be recorded, or it is being recorded right now. I've already hit the record button. Please feel free to ask questions using the question and answers box, and I will do my best to answer each of them. I'll read them out loud. I won't unmask who you are, so there's no stupid questions. You don't have to worry about that. And all of this will be posted to our YouTube channel afterwards, and there'll be some resources I'm going to show you, as well as an announcement at the end with some links. So definitely, if you can stick around, do. And then you can check out my Twitter feed as well as the Hunchly Twitter feed as well afterwards. So enough preamble. And of course, Phil is here as well as the Hunchly product manager to heckle me throughout. So hopefully he does a good job of that, because I guess I'm honor bound to read out all of him, all of his heckling, his heckling. Perfect. So you should be able to see my screen and hear me. If you're running into technical difficulties, I can't help you from this point forward, unfortunately, so you'll have to rely on the recording. Now, we're going to work everything in Microsoft Windows today. So generally speaking, the bulk of our customers and clients use Microsoft Windows, and a ton of investigations are done on Windows. So that's where we will remain. And really, what I want you to start out with is just, as a normal Hunchly user, you should already have Hunchly installed and running. And very quickly, if you have never seen Hunchly before, I'll show you what installed and running actually looks like. We are using our newest version here, 2.2.7. I'm going to send some more teasers out for our report builder probably pretty soon too on the socials, so watch for that. And this is our dashboard. So this is where you manage your cases, you review materials that you've captured, as well as use some of our investigative tools and do some of your setup, reporting. And then the other part of Hunchly lives in your web browser. And when I say web browser, I mean your Chromium-based web browser. So Hunchly does not support Firefox, but it does support anything Chromium-based. So that's Google Chrome, Chromium itself, Microsoft Edge as well, and the privacy-focused Brave. So it works with Brave as well. So by up and running properly, I have my dashboard open. By default, you're going to have an unassigned case. Everyone does. It's just a placeholder. And here in my browser, I can see the Hunchly Chrome extensions installed. Now, if you ever pop into your browser and you don't see it, click the little puzzle piece. I don't know why Chrome did this. I guess it helps to declutter the extensions, but you do have to pin it if you want it to be there for you the whole time. And just to show you what page capture looks like with Hunchly, we're going to turn this on. And the whole notion is that as we browse, Hunchly is following along, capturing every page that we browse to. It's timestamping it, hashing it, and storing it on your local hard drive. There's no cloud services. We don't collect metrics or any type of crazy bug reports or anything like that. So it's designed to be used in a secure environment, and everything is stored locally. So we've got Hunchly up and running. We've captured a page just by browsing to it. We can go and review that page here in our dashboard. This is now a permanent copy. So it's like our own little Wayback Machine. We are always going to have a copy of that, what Google looked like in that moment, on our hard drive. And of course, you're going to want to back those up. But this is really the nice thing, because you can always come back and review these materials later on. And particularly in dark web investigations, often what I had found, and again, I actually haven't had to do a ton recently, but what I often found is that hidden services are here and gone, right? So some days something's up, the next day they're down. I mean, we have, which we will cover shortly, we have an entire report and kind of a very simple crawling and monitoring system that's checking for hidden services on Tor. And so it's really nice when you have to do dark web work, if you actually can reach the service, that you're preserving everything you're looking at while you go. And then if it goes down the next day, then you have the ability at least to go back and review everything that you saw. And it's a little bit more feature and content rich than just taking screenshots, as you will see. So Hunchly's up and running. Now, what I'm going to do is actually kind of a very simple trick. We're going to download Tor browser, and then we're going to run Tor browser, and what it's going to do is act as a proxy. And then I'm going to configure Google Chrome to route all of its traffic through that proxy, which will now allow Chrome to access Tor. Okay, so this is the least secure and least operationally secure method for doing dark web investigations. Okay, so just to put that out there, you are definitely going to want to make sure that depending on the target and who you were investigating and why, that this probably, if you're doing like nation state stuff, is not a great configuration for you. If you are a journalist or somebody who just needs to jump in and read a forum, or you need to look at something and you're less concerned about losing access to it or whatever, that's a different story. But again, we don't tend to talk about operational security here or really give out advice on that because it is a completely different field of study and we are not experts on it. So just be mindful that this is not a configuration to use when dealing with very sensitive or like targets that might be well aware of you using a non-default browser to access Tor. All right, that all being said, so what we need to do first is download Tor browser. So I'm just going to fire up Chrome. And I'm actually going to disable Hunchly's capture right now because I don't need it to capture all my steps doing setup. Okay, so I'm just going to turn that off. I'm just going to Google for Tor browser. Feel free again to ask questions if you have anything. If you've never heard the term dark web until today, or Tor, or never heard of the Tor browser, those are all totally valid questions. And if I can't answer them, I will get back to you offline. Cool. So right here, the torproject.org is where we want to go. Now for me, I'm just going to grab this, download for Windows. Okay, so we have this Tor browser installer downloading. Now the other thing about Hunchly too, we have this notion, later on it'll become important, but because you just did a download, what you can actually do is if you're doing investigations, particularly if you're doing like pulling samples or you're pulling like malware stuff or scripts off of download sites or paste sites on the dark web, you can turn on a setting that will automatically attach all of those downloads for you. So in this case, when I downloaded that Tor installer, Hunchly wasn't running, and I don't have it turned on. But what you would do is you'd go up in here in your settings, and you'd say attach downloads. And what that would do is actually pull that file in and make a copy of it, cache it, and then you can always come back and review it as part of your case. So I often turn it on before I start doing my work or if I have a fresh install of Hunchly. So again, just to mention that if you're doing malware work or you're pulling samples, having that setting turned on, in this case, would have automatically brought this installer in directly into my case. All right, cool. So we'll hit Tor browser install. All right, yes, and sorry if the audio moves ahead of the video or vice versa on the stream currently. It does get resolved and normalized when the recording's published, so sometimes you can get a bit of drift between the audio and video, I've noticed. So just hang tight, the recording should clean that up. All right, so we've installed Tor browser. Now, the thing is that it's kind of a misnomer because when you install Tor browser, it actually just kind of puts it in this little containerized folder for you here. So it actually started it up, but I don't want to do that yet. I want to show you. So here we have our Tor browser install. Okay, cool. That's what it looks like, little onion. So now what we want to do is just fire it up. So by default, when you install Tor browser, you have an option here where it'll connect automatically or not connect automatically. Depending on your situation, you may not want it to automatically connect. I always leave it disabled because you might want to be in control or have other things like a VPN come up first or whatever it is before you connect. So just that's why it's asking you here up front before it establishes the connection. So now what it's doing is it's figuring out how to access the Tor network. It's getting a list of nodes that it can hop through. Do your thing. Cool. And that's it. And this is usually where people go, okay, cool. Now what? I've got Tor browser up and running. What do I do with it? And it's a legitimate question because often if you're just learning about the dark web, it's a tough thing. That's kind of like learning about the internet. Like, where do I go? What do I do? So before we even want to kind of bolt Chrome into this or really anything, we should first kind of figure out, well, where can we even just go to understand what we're going to be preserving with Chrome? And this is really where our daily mailing list is a really useful tool. So if you head to hunch.ly and I see a question there, I'll nab that right away and scroll all the way to the bottom because we're running into real estate at the top. And we have this dark web mailing list. Okay. So pop your email in there. And what's going to happen is you're going to get an email every morning that's going to have a link to just a Dropbox folder with a spreadsheet. So I'm going to show you what this spreadsheet looks like from a couple of days ago. Now, here's test number 2 for, is it going to let me switch? Is it going to let me switch? Are you going to let me switch? Hey, I think it let me switch. I don't know why it's so buggy now. It like gives me the rainbow of doom anytime I want to switch apps. So strange. Cool. So what we're looking at, and hopefully it looks okay on your screen. It's not like crushed down for you. Yes, good, perfect, good. So what this is our report from a couple of days ago on the 28th. So when you crack open our spreadsheet, when you click the link in your email, it's going to just take you straight to the spreadsheet that you can download. We have an entire archive as well on our Dropbox folder. And that archive will show you every single spreadsheet that we had forever. You can pull them down and process them, do whatever you like with them. But often people even get our initial spreadsheet and they kind of go, okay, what do I do with this? What am I looking at? So there's 3 sheets in the bottom that you want to look at: new today, down and up. So new today is anything that our very simple crawling system has discovered as a new hidden service today. Okay. Now the language field and what a hidden service, this is what this is. This is basically the URL. Okay. And you know it's a Tor hidden service if it ends in .onion instead of ending in .com or .net or .ly, such as ours. Okay. So we have the hidden service, which is its location. We have the language. Now, this is a very simple language detection that we're just trying to figure out what is the written language that we have seen on this page. Okay. The status code, it's just telling us what the server responded with. So for technical folks, they'll use this code to determine whether there's something else that's interesting and want to look at, when we first saw it, and just the title, the HTML title of the page. Very, very simple. Okay, so it's just telling us this was the new thing that we discovered today. Now in the down tab, these are all the services that we've seen before that are no longer up. So sometimes we'll see references to services that, for example, they were in a tweet or they might have been referenced in another hidden service. And now we were never able to reach them. We see a reference to them. We knew at least somebody had talked about them at some point, but they've never been able to be reached by our system. And in other cases, it'll tell you the last time that service was up. So it can be useful, for example, if you get a new investigation that comes in today, and you go to check out this hidden services .onion and it's gone, you can actually use our spreadsheet. There might be a history of when it was last present. There might even be other clues like title stuff, things in the title that might tell you what was there at some point. So that can kind of tell you that. And then what I often tell people to check out is the up sheet. Now, be warned, depending on the type of work you do, you're going to want to keyword search a little differently here. Here, apparently, I'm searching for a Hosier song in an Excel sheet, which is telling you where my head was at this morning. Um, but the cool thing is that it allows you to kind of keyword search through, depending on the type of work that you do, which can be anything from if you're part of a CSAM unit, so somebody who's working on sexually explicit material involving children or human trafficking, weapons, drugs, much like the regular internet, it's kind of got it all here. And we do not content screen any of this, right? So That part is really not kind of up to us. We're just trying to give people a resource to start being able to do some of this work. Now, the other nice thing, though, is that really there's some interesting places that we can just start that we know are going to be safe. So, for example, Facebook. Well, I mean, I don't know how safe Facebook is these days. I actually haven't been on for a while. But the cool thing about this is that Facebook, along with things like ProPublica, of whom I love, again, we can find their hidden onion. That's a new term. Oh, apparently I can't find ProPublica. I just scrolled past it. I'm probably spelling it wrong. But you can search for things like New York Times, ProPublica. There's often outfits will host their secure drop in a hidden service. So even Canadian outfits up here, CBC and others, they have secure drops, places where sources can drop files to journalists, and it's widely used all over the world. There's often a hidden service that you can browse to be fully anonymous as well, if they've deployed it properly. So you can often find them in here. Now, one of the funny things is often we hear like, well, is there, I don't know, what about stock trading tips? Yeah, insider tips. Okay. So stock insiders. Now, I'll point another thing out to you. In 2021, when you see one of these relatively short hidden service addresses, that's called a V2. It's an old style way of addressing hidden services, and it's actually deprecated. So often, if you browse to these shortened versions, you'll get redirected. So let me just pop back into our VM here real quick. Perfect. Should be back in. Awesome. So I'm just going to pop it in. Let me just recenter this. Sorry. There's always like this nightmarish window management that has to go on when you're hosting webinars and you have like both a VM and the webinar thing on the outside. All right, perfect. Cool. So I'm just going to show you this onion. All right, so this is what Tor browser will tell you. Okay, so it's going to say, yeah, it's going to be deprecated soon. And then often when you browse, you'll see this, right? We've moved. We're on a new V3 address. So you'll often see double entries in our spreadsheet. You'll get the V2 and the V3 if the V2 is still responding. The V3s are just longer. So here we have a forum that is allegedly for insider information, for monetizing insider information for publicly traded companies. So of course it's always a funny one because you have to give up information, I think, to join or something like that. It's been around for forever. But what we've done is we've actually gone to our first hidden service. We know that the Tor browser is configured correctly. Everything is working properly. And now we have to think about, okay, everything's set up, but how do I document what I'm doing? So I'm going to take a quick sidebar here and answer some questions, and then we'll jump back in and configure Chrome with Hunchly to work through Tor. All right, cool. Yeah, and again, just to let everyone know, I'm sorry if there's video lag issues and other things. There's nothing, there's not a lot I can do about it right now, but it will get resolved on the recording. Perfect. All right, so how is Hunchly crawling the dark web and giving new onion sites in the daily reports? Are there any keyword-based dark web searches using Hunchly? So that's a great question. It's this really simple system a friend of mine and I named Steve's anonymous Steve that we've mentioned in other webinars. And it's just a very simple system that we seeded with a database of a very small number of onions. And then all it does is it takes one of the onions out of the database. It goes and reaches out to that onion, pulls back its index page, so its home page. It makes sure that it's alive, and if it is alive, it goes through the content of the index page looking for references to any other hidden services. And if there are references to other hidden services, it takes those and sticks them in the database. We also have like very simple Twitter monitoring. People occasionally tweet out things like, like hidden services or interesting Tor sites, or if somebody's launched a new service, like a news service, and they put up a hidden service to mirror their main site, we try to pick those things up as well. So it's not that sophisticated. It's actually quite simple, all written in Python. and distribute it across a handful of DigitalOcean droplets, which we're hoping to move to like completely serverless stuff on Google Cloud at some point. Okay, so hopefully that helps to answer that one. Awesome, awesome. Thank you, Phil. Yes, for repeating the profane entries in the spreadsheet to me. I appreciate that. All right, and someone had mentioned that they haven't got the spreadsheet. So if you sign up to the mailing list, you'll get a notification email. You'll have to wait until tomorrow morning before you'll get your first spreadsheet. But you can also check the email. There's an archive link that will take you to the Dropbox where you can pull down any sheet you like. All right. Cool. So I think we've got all those cleared up. I'm going to take a quick coffee sip and then we will carry on to configuring Chrome. That was a long coffee sip. All right, perfect. So we got Tor browser up and running. We've browsed to our first hidden service. We got the basics down. We know how to kind of search through the spreadsheets. And now we want to actually document what we were doing. So what I'm going to do is just minimize Tor browser. So always you're going to need Tor browser running to do this. There's other ways of doing this, but this is the simplest. Just start the Tor browser. Now the other thing, and this is a new thing, and I know he's laughing right now, but if you go to GitHub and you go /Hunchly, this is our GitHub repo. This is where our Multigo transforms are, by the way. If you are ever interested in playing around with Multigo and Hunchly, our transforms are in there. And Divi has done some work on them recently to clean them up, I believe, as well, because I am a terrible coder. But what you want to look at is Funchly. So Funchly is where Phil has allowed me. I guess I'm a clown. I'm not sure what he's getting at here, but this is where I'm allowed to put all of my code that's not officially supported. But what we have is this great little Chrome Tor settings text file. And all we need to do is actually copy and paste this into a shortcut. And that's going to tell Chrome to route through Tor so that we can access hidden services through Chrome and thus preserve them with Hunchly. So for example, this is what my full command line looks like. All you need to copy is this. You want to copy this, just this line. Okay, I'm going to copy that. Now we're going to switch back to our desktop. So I'm going to use Chrome Dev. I can use which one I want. I already have one set up. Oh, I can use regular Chrome, sorry. So all I'm going to do is my regular Chrome shortcut. I'm going to right click and go create shortcut. That's going to give me another shortcut. By habit, I rename it Chrome Tor so that I know that this shortcut's going to fire up Chrome and route it through Tor. I'm going to right click on it and go properties. And now this is where I need to paste. So I'm just hitting the right arrow, boop. That takes me right to the end of the line, spacebar, and paste. That's it. So I'm just pasting in from the little Funchly, I can't even say it with a straight face, our Funchly repo. And we're just copying and pasting that right into that shortcut, which I've now lost because I moved away from it. Perfect. Okay, so we click apply, hit OK. And I have two set up. I use a developer version of Chrome as well. Doesn't matter, these both do the same thing. All right, so I have Chrome, I got Hunchly, but before I get too crazy, I'm going to create a new case here. And I'm just going to say dark web, so I don't have it going into my unassigned case. Perfect, so that's how we create new cases in Hunchly Desktop. Easy peasy. All right. Hold on, I have like 3 browsers open, and this is actually a valuable point here. You don't want to have multiple instances of Chrome running with Hunchly going because it will have 2 separate processes trying to access the same stuff, and it does not like it. All right, so let's fire Chrome back up because I had too many Chromes open. I'm going to make sure I got my dark web case selected. And now I'm going to grab this onion, copy, pasta, and if all goes well, which it may not, there we go. So voila, we now have Chrome browsing the dark web with Hunchly along for the ride. Now, if you remember what our kind of history view looked like with Google, it looks exactly the same thing when you're doing dark web work. It's got the URL to the hidden service. It's preserved the page. So we see all of the text is preserved here. We can explore the source if there's any JavaScript, which is actually unusual that there's Java. Normally people try not to load a ton of scripts and stuff, so neat. That's neat. We can look at that later. But the other cool thing is that Hunchly can do things like extract data out of it. So for example, if found an email address on that page in that hidden service, this might be a way for us to then pop out of the dark web and start hunting around the surface web for things that might be tied to this service, but this person inadvertently exposed by leaving their email in. It might be nothing. This might be like, I don't know, the author of the forum software or something. That's not uncommon as well, that you can see that in copyright notices. So, but you'll also see that there was a reference here to another onion. I don't know what this other onion is. It could be the V2 onion that they were talking about before. Remember the shortened version, or it could be something else. I don't go look at onions I don't know live because I really don't know what we're going to get. So the cool thing is that we can kind of do all of our regular investigative technique now, meaning we can move around, chase down leads, pick stuff up that we're interested in, as well as use tools within Hunchly to kind of make us more effective while we're doing that work. So before I kind of dig into some of those tools and show you some of the interesting things you can do, or at least things that I find useful when I'm doing dark web work, first I'm going to answer some questions. So Brave browser is a variation of Chrome. Will these processes also work with it? Yes. So Hunchly does work with Brave. Now, the one thing is that how Brave does its Tor routing, I believe, is through a private tab. And I haven't used Brave actually in a little while. Um, and I believe in Brave, you're actually restricted from installing extensions on a private tab or what they like consider their secure tab. But I think otherwise, using this trick should otherwise work across the board. If nothing else, let us know if you run into any issues with it or any configuration issues, and we'll take a stab at it. Okay, cool. Yeah, and another question about Brave. So yeah, I don't know if it will work natively in the Brave kind of Tor integration, because I believe Brave did, or at least still does, have Tor integration, but it should work for proxying. Okay, perfect. Is Hunchly data collection suitable for submission in court? So that's an excellent question. Yes, so Hunchly was designed actually from the ground up, day one, to basically provide output in a way that's court friendly. That was the whole purpose, was that police officers, private investigators, well, tons of people anyone who has to do work that could potentially end up with you in a witness box explaining it, needed something that was taking timestamps and hashes and all of that for them. And most notably, we had a terrorism case here in Canada where, things in the documentation process just didn't go well for the police service. They're just, for various reasons. And so this kind of brought to the forefront that when you're doing online investigative search, you need kind of what you would normally think you need, right? Which is like, what did you see, which is the content, where did you see it, the URL, and this information panel tells us when you saw it, right? So you got the timestamp. Now this hash is going to allow you to then say, like, you can provide that page in disclosure, and that hash is going to tell the other party that you transmitting that page to them has not modified it in any way, and that's the good copy of the evidence. Now, the other thing is we do have a bunch of other kind of things we do, including cryptographic signing behind the scenes, which we thought was only probably 5 years ahead of the court system when we did it. It's probably more like 10 or 20 years ahead of where the courts are at. But it's a way of applying a digital signature to your page capture. So we already do that. And if you have any questions about that, I won't browse there now because my Tor connection will be slow. Our knowledge base has an entire evidence guide. So that's at support.hunch.ly, and I'll send it to everyone right now. Support.hunch.ly. All right, send to all. So there's an evidence guide there. Awesome. All right, so another question. It sounds like you can't run Hunchly natively in the Tor browser. Is this correct? That is correct. So you cannot run Hunchly natively in the Tor browser. The Tor project also encourages folks not to install extensions into Tor browser. So if I need something that's quick and dirty for documentation, I use this. If I need something more secure, I'm using a 2 virtual machine setup with something that at least makes it look like it's Tor browser. So yeah, you can't use it directly, unfortunately, and that's also because Tor browser is Firefox based, and Firefox does not have the pieces inside of its engine to do the evidence capture. Okay, cool. Awesome. So this is great because, and thank you, Igor. So someone has just mentioned I use Brave and it is possible to use extensions on private mode. You just have to enable it in the permission settings. So I think that's actually new because I remember me struggling to get it set up or trying to figure out a hack. So that's great. If it's not new, then I'm totally full of BS. Awesome. What is the GitHub link for the Hunchly repo? It's just at, I'll send this to everyone, github.com/Hunchly. And then I was in the Funchly repo with an F. That is correct. All right. If I start normal Chrome at this point with Capture on, will all work, or is it likely to crash? So I'm not sure if you're referring to have like starting Chrome with Capture turned on automatically. Totally fine to do that. I usually leave mine disabled, so it's a muscle memory thing that I'm like actively turn it on, and I know I'm about to go investigating. But firing up Chrome with Hunchly enabled is not going to crash anything. Nope. All right. What do we have here? Is there a single consolidated database of what has been compiled over the years that is downloadable? This would help track when a site bounces in and out. So that's a great question, Robert. And we do not have a database of our hidden services stuff. I know folks who have downloaded it and made their own databases. And behind the scenes, it's actually, I want to say MySQL. So we have contemplated like giving a search tool or providing it in another format. As you will see in a little bit here, as I announce some stuff. We've been busy with other things, but it is on our radar that folks do want potentially an interface to dig through that data. But definitely, I do know a few people who have written just that, like 50 lines of Python, and they produce it just from the spreadsheets. But yeah, if we ever build one, we'll definitely announce it. Cool. How does Hunchly work when you're using a VM? So great question, Kelly. Hunchly works totally fine when using a VM. I'm in a VM right now. Actually, if you look at my mouse, this is a VM. I can pause it here. It's a bit of a trick, but yeah. So it works totally fine as long as you can run Chrome in that VM. Hunchly will be along for the ride. So we support. I shouldn't say that. Phil's probably shaking his fist at me. We support Windows, Debian-based Linux, meaning Ubuntu, Debian, those flavors, and Mac. So anything that'll work in a VM there. And then for licensing, one license goes to one investigator. That investigator can install it on as many machines, virtual or otherwise, as they like. Okay, cool. Perfect. More questions here, and then I'm going to march along a little bit here. All right. Is there a guide for setting up Hunchly and Tor on the Mac? Looks like you're just using Chrome Hunchly through a Tor proxy. Yeah, so that's exactly right, Jesse. I'm just using Chrome. I'm using Tor browser as a proxy for Chrome. That's it. This is the simplest, quickest method to just jump in if you got to go preserve some stuff on the dark web. Now, we do have a guide we are in the midst of reworking that does have some instructions on getting some other setup done. Generally speaking, if you're a more technical user, definitely like a 2 VM setup with Unix, if you've ever done one, like using VirtualBox, is great because you can do all kinds of stuff to obscure yourself, and all of your traffic, not just Chrome, routes out that virtual machine into Tor. So yes, there you go. All right. And same thing, our guide did have instructions on setting up for Linux as well. The instructions are very much the same. But again, most folks are kind of jumping into Windows to do this stuff, but much the same way, they're just command line arguments that are being sent to the Chrome browser. That's all I was pasting there, so you can check our GitHub repo for that. All right. Okay, perfect. So I have some other questions coming in, but I'm just going to move on briefly and then we'll jump back into the questions. We still got tons of time. Now, when I'm doing dark web work, there's a few things that I actually pay attention to that are kind of specific to doing dark web work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just grab another hidden service from the spreadsheet here. Perfect. And again, so I'm just going to demonstrate this to you. Perfect. So this is again a V2 onion. You can see it, it's tiny. What you're also seeing, the spinning in the Chrome browser in the top left-hand tab there, that's totally normal through Tor because you're bouncing a connection around potentially all over the world. It is slow. Even browsing to Google, you expect to solve a ton of CAPTCHAs. Expect every site you browse to that has any type of mitigations on it, like DDoS or other things, they're going to think you're suspicious just because you're coming from Tor. So you're just going to have a ton of CAPTCHAs and other stuff going on that can be a bit annoying. All right, so we're on this website. It's got a bunch of Apple products for sale, apparently. Likely not. But the reason why I'm browsing here is what's interesting is when you're browsing with Hunchly, and again, useful for folks in the CSAM world, Hunchly is actually extracting every image off of the page, hashing it, and storing it separately. And as part of that extraction process is also pulling out EXIF metadata. So the EXIF metadata is often removed in most places on the surface web, and most people who are practicing good operational security in the dark web too, they're going to strip it out because there are times where this EXIF metadata can actually expose who the person is that's running the hidden service. So what I often will do is after I've browsed for a little bit is I'll just pop down into this all images with EXIF tab and have a quick look. Now, if you ever need a surface web site to test this on, use arstechnica.com. It's just a tech news site, but they have a ton of metadata in their stories all over their images. So it's a great place to just go and test this. But when you're doing dark web work, in this context, it can potentially be a way to de-anonymize somebody. So I'll always kind of come in and check here. This is really like a very specific thing, and it's also something I get really excited whenever I'm, looking at hidden services and I see some hits here, because it's really, you shouldn't see that. People generally strip that stuff out. Now, the other thing that I often will do is I'm going to be checking this data tab fairly frequently. And the reason for that is that I'm looking for anything like email addresses, references to other hidden services. So Hunchly is actually in the background working a way to extract things like tracking codes and dark web references and email accounts and Google tracking codes. And the reason for that is that it helps to bring you little clues, breadcrumbs that you can follow. And of course, you can bring these little tidbits like email accounts into other tools, right? So if you have an email search tool, if you're using something like Scope Now, then you can take these email addresses and run them in. You can go on Google for them. So particularly those two things are things that I use a lot and I reference more when I'm in the dark web than on the surface web, just because the context is different for me generally when I'm doing it. The rest of the stuff in Hunchly, if you're a Hunchly user, it all works the same as it normally does. Selectors are a really nice way to just keep things that are important to you tracked. So if you're hunting, say, a hacksaw with the handle jms.py, in the dark web, you want to enter that in as a selector before you go out and do your hunting. What Hunchly is going to do is every hidden service page that you browse to, it's going to be looking for references to that username and it's going to mark them for you. Now, normally we're doing this all on the surface web and it's easy for me to show you this. But this is really useful. Your selectors are a way to kind of like save you from investigator fatigue where your eyes don't pick up something that might be important. Now, we also, if you're ever curious whether you've captured something that was important, you can use our text search here, which is a nice way of just like saying, well, show me anything Apple related, for example, right? So it'll pull these things out for you. There's a whole search syntax, so it's very kind of Google-like. You can kind of say, I want to search the URL for this, but I don't want pages that include this term, for example. So all of that can be done from here. But again, dark web or not, I use selectors on every single investigation or research project that I'm on. And I also take a ton of notes. So if you leave here with like one muscle memory to do thing, it's that taking notes is an important way for you to create a bit of a timeline for you as an investigator. so that you can kind of contextualize what you were seeing. And of course, if you find something interesting, that you're taking a note of it. So if you didn't see that little quick mouse click, it's a right click, Hunchly to take note. Nice phones. Oh, I have a frog in my throat. Is that just a Canadian saying where you get like a scratchy throat and it's like you've swallowed a frog? I don't understand it. I don't know why that is, but it's probably like Bob's your mother's brother. It's like that one. All right, great. So again, dark web, otherwise, I'm taking lots of notes. This is going to allow me to both document my progress, but also if you have to take a break from your investigation and jump back in later, maybe because a hidden service went down for 2 weeks and now it's back up, it's a good place to go and quickly be brought back up to speed on what you were investigating. All right, cool. So this is not like a big front to back Hunchly demo today. Those are just some of the things that I'll do. And of course, all the rest of the stuff in Hunchly works exactly as it does in the dark web, as it does on the surface web. So we have a ton of other webinars and materials and our knowledge base as well. So first I'm gonna answer some questions and then I'm gonna give an announcement. There might be some more questions and then I'm gonna bounce and let everyone get on with their week. All right, cool. I've noticed that sometimes Facebook pages aren't fully captured. Any advice on how to best deploy Hunchly to capture Facebook pages? Yes, so I'm going to get out of, and I'm not going to use Facebook because I don't have an account. I'm going to demonstrate, however, with Instagram. So yes, there are issues with Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter because they're using kind of a new technology or something. I think it's React or some flavor of it. And so what happens is, as I'll show you here, if we go to Instagram.com and go to Ambermac, I'll turn Hunchly on. There we go. Come on. All right, cool. So this is Ambermac's Instagram. Now, what we expect to happen is as we scroll down, Hunchly knows when new content is loaded into the page and it will trigger a fresh capture. So you don't have to tell it to do that. As you scroll down the page, it's going to keep triggering fresh captures of this page. So we see these pictures as like a sailboat in the top left. All right, so keep that sailboat in mind. We're going to scroll down and now I'm going to say show more posts. So Hunchly does some more capturing, some more pictures come in. I scroll down, more pictures get loaded in. You can kind of see they're grayed out before they come in. All right, and then we get the modal saying it's time to log in, which will likely get captured as well. So what do we expect to see? Well, let's go back here and take a look in our dashboard. Okay, so now the modal, while annoying, okay, that's technically what was there. So there are little tricks you can do. For example, you can clear the modal, get rid of it, log in, do whatever, right click on the page and force a new capture. Okay, if you want to do that. So you can right click on a page at any point in time and say capture. You can also bind that to a keyboard shortcut if you want. Cool. So, but where are the images? There's no sailboat, right? The sailboat is gone. So this is the same problem that you'll face on Facebook and Twitter. And if we look, the pictures only drop in here. Now the reason for this is Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook used to be, as you scroll down a page, they just keep loading more stuff in. And I don't know if you ever had this happen to you, but occasionally you'd be like investigating something, you'd be scrolling, and then the fans would turn on your laptop, and you're like, well, that's weird. And you keep scrolling, then your browser starts going real slow. And then you're like, holy crap. And you realize you've got like 17 years of someone's life loaded into your browser tab. So what they decided was as you scroll down, instead of keeping 17 years, they're just keeping the last couple of minutes worth. And they unload everything at the top of the screen, blanking it out. So as we scroll down, this sailboat picture that was here, it got unloaded, and then new stuff gets brought in, right? And as we scroll down through this new stuff, if we would have kept going, this stuff would get unloaded, and you end up with these huge blank spaces, and your evidence doesn't look complete, even though it's technically accurate. Okay, so it is technically accurate, because if you had a way of tricking your browser right here, if I could do it, which I probably can through developer tools, I could show you there's just this huge, like, effectively gray area. So how do we fix this? Well, the first thing we need to do, I'm just going to close my browser because I need to make a settings change. And if you have a big settings change, restart your browser to ensure that the settings are picked up. So in our settings page, we have right at the top page capture sensitivity. It's normally on major changes only, and I can switch it to all changes. This does not affect the court admissibility of these page captures. We call it beta simply because it will generate a metric ton of page captures in order to get all of the images that we're after. All right, so you saw that we have a couple pages here. Now let's fire the browser back up. No, I wanted to go to Amber Max. Amber Mac. All right. Look at that. Okay, so we're already we see that it nabbed 2 captures just to that mistype by me. So I'm gonna just clear this and I'm gonna start scrolling. All right, so there was the dog in the sailboat. I'm gonna load more posts. And you can see there are now captures starting to stream into my dashboard. And they will continue to stream in as I scroll down. All the updates that are occurring every time that page capture gets triggered. So by default, Hunchly maintains a 30-minute window before triggering a fresh capture. So you can hit the same page over and over and over for 30 minutes, and it'll just keep updating the same capture. And then when we turn it to this all changes mode, it's going to do a fresh capture for every single time that there's an update to the page, which can generate a lot of captures. But it will be complete. You will not miss any images. Every time you scroll, it's going to be picking them up regardless of the location. The sailboat will be in the first set, right? So this is how you can kind of work around this, and that's what I do. I then turn the setting off when I'm done with social media. If you spend all of your days on social media, you can either use this setting or you can do a little muscle memory around taking more direct captures or using notes to be more specific. So there's not a lot we can do to remedy this without kind of messing with the actual page itself, which we really are always reluctant to do because we don't want to kind of screw up anybody's evidence. But that's how you can handle things like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. The other thing with Facebook too, for my purposes, often the mobile version. So m.facebook.com works great for some things, as well as the ultra mobile version, the mbasic.facebook.com, depending on the task, can also be really useful. All right, cool. Perfect. Hopefully that helps to answer that. Would you ever do an extension for Firefox? Absolutely. If Firefox enables MHTML capture, which Chromium supports, if Firefox were to enable that API tomorrow, you would have Hunchly on Firefox. So yes, we've advocated and really tried to get Firefox to bring that API over. It's not a simple thing for them. But yeah, as soon as they have it, we can just literally drop Hunchly in and away you go. Perfect. Have you tried using it within Unix? Yeah, you bet, Brian. My original guide was all done in Unix for the more secure setup, so totally Unix is my preferred method for doing dark web browsing. All right, is Hunchly free for commercial use? Nope, the Hunchly licenses are $129 Canadian, so about $100 American per year per user. So, and then it's unlimited installs per user. So no, it is not free for commercial use, although we have a ton of free tools and the dark web mailing list is free and we have a ton of other free resources out there. All right, next question. Does Chrome send information back to Google? Yeah, it does. Yep, and definitely if you've got your Google account logged in to your Chrome profile, that's all being stored too. So definitely, Chromium does not have the same integrations that Chrome does, and Brave is even more stripped down and removes all of it, and really aims to be the most kind of the best privacy kind of browser that there is. So hopefully that helps with that. Cool. Oh yeah, great tip here from Kara. Hi, Kara. They may want to use DuckDuckGo to avoid the captions. And yes, so if you use DuckDuckGo instead of Google when you're routing through Tor, you will get less captions. Or none, actually. I don't remember if I ever got one there. Cool. All right. Brave update. I can't get dark web stuff working with Hunchly and Brave. We'll need to follow up on it. All right. Thanks, Phil. So there you go, everyone. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Yes, yes. Now people are making Canada jokes about poutine. That's perfect. All right, perfect. Oh yeah, so we have a user who's used Hunchly for a while. I lost the button to switch the active case in the dashboard. Actually, we removed the active button in the dashboard. So now to switch cases in Hunchly, it's always through the Chrome extension right here. So you just want to hit the Chrome extension right there. All right. Perfect, perfect. Oh no, I just deleted a question. Ah, all right, next. Sorry, somebody asked a question and I deleted it. Where does it save the data? So Hunchly stores all of the data locally on your hard drive. So if you, by default, it's in your documents, Hunchly data folder. Everything's in here. The photos that are extracted and hashed separately are in your photos folder. So if you work in a unit that has access to image processing tools, or you use GriphEye, or you use things like Giro, then you can just dump that whole folder into your image processing and all kinds of magic will come out. And your cases are logically separated on disk here. So you can see they're labeled, and then within there you can see all of your materials as well. So everything is stored locally. No cloud-based storage. You can, however, configure it to store data on a cloud drive if you need to. All right, perfect. So one last question, and I'm sorry I can't even help with this one right now, but can you show what Hunchly looks like in Maltego? Why don't we do that in a future webinar? I think that we're probably overdue for a Hunchly and Maltego mashup, and I'm sure you all know I love mashups. So yes, we will get on that. Now, before you all go, I did want to mention we have a pretty exciting thing today. And as always, at I want to say Hunchly headquarters, I guess, but we don't really have a headquarters. But we like to work on things kind of in secret and then release them slowly and trickle them out to you. And I'm happy to announce that our newest team member, Ginger, has been hard at work along, and I can't even spell it, Hunchly.training. Ginger has been hard at work with Phil to bring you the Hunchly Institute, which is our first little bit of training where you can learn in our newest course how to configure some data forwarding with Hunchly, not using any code, using Zapier. Okay, and we've designed these courses to be super easy, very much for the beginner, so that it's not extremely difficult. This mini course is not expensive. It is $24.99 Canadian. It was really also our freelance journalist folks out there. I know you can't like afford an entire month's pay on training, and everyone else, you're going to see a ton of useful stuff in here. So this is a great place not only to come learn about Hunchly data forwarding, which is kind of the next generation of stuff where you can start to do some really interesting stuff. Once you join the course, you also get access into the user community, so you can start to submit comments, chat back and forth, send us ideas for more courses. We have a Python-based course coming very soon. It is hot on the heels of this one. Stay tuned for that. We'll be using our regular mailing list to announce this and to send out new courses that are coming. We also have a certification coming, as well as a large, very involved course involving Google Cloud, Python, and Hunchly, as well as doing some pretty neato stuff. So this is just the beginning, and we are really excited to unveil this and to kind of release this out to the world. We've been kind of working on it throughout the summer, and as I mentioned, before the summer was out, we wanted to release it and collect all of your feedback and get more ideas for more courses. These things are really fun, and Ginger is an amazing presenter. You will be really impressed. You've heard me, you've heard Phil. Now you're going to get Ginger, and you're going to realize this is 3.0 is much better. No offense, Phil, but you heckled me all day. You deserve to get this at the 11th hour. So please go check it out at hunchly.training. And again, we are really excited for this. Check out our GitHub repo. So if you didn't hit that part before in our presentation, github.com/Hunchly. In here, you might, even if you just watch this repo, Phil has allowed me to kind of put whatever I want in there. So I have been doing some awful things to our compiled extension. So I really hope that I can start putting some of those things up there and show you, at least give you some ideas on what you can do to kind of hack Hunchly or make it do things it's not designed to do. In your face, Phil, sorry. He already said, please God, no, not the extension. That's great. And yes, the certification will be tied to us. So that will be coming in the next couple of months as we will be, there's a need for it. So people need to be able to go to court and say, I know how to use Hunchly. I know exactly how to explain evidence that comes out of Hunchly. I know what the major core functionality of it is. and it is becoming more and more important as people are being questioned. And again, we are always looking for people to tell us about court cases that they've taken, or case law, or other things where you've taken Hunchly in, and there might be records that we can look at, because we're always interested to hear about challenges and how people use it on the stand, of course. So definitely, yes, Phil is there's people asking about hacking the extension, Phil. So don't worry, folks. I'll be following up. Phil may never join another webinar. So anyway, what we're trying to do is encourage more community engagement and involvement. The courses are a way to do that, as you can chat with one another in there through the comments in each lecture. There'll be more courses coming. And of course, we want to do more Hunchly hacking. There's a lot of really interesting stuff we can do. Before I leave you, I will also say pay attention to my Twitter. Our new report builder is ridiculously awesome. And my team has said I'm not allowed to send anything out about it, but one of them made the mistake of sending me screenshots in a moment of vulnerability this morning and a moment of trust. So I might start sharing those as early as tomorrow, in fact. And it looks really, really good. So we've been hard at work through the summer, and I know it probably looked like we were pretty quiet, but there's a lot of really cool things coming. And I'm going to be hanging out as well as Ginger and Phil in the Institute today. So if you have any questions there, if there's any comments or anything like that, we are watching it like a hawk. And I look forward to chatting with you all again very soon. I'm going to take one more quick scroll through the questions. You're very welcome. I'm glad you had fun. These webinars are not scripted. They're all about fun. When largely a lot of us, the stuff we research is not a lot of fun. So I do enjoy doing this. It's a good way for all of us to connect. Awesome. Yes, so I'm still hacking on the Hunchly extension. I have not, I need to get it to a point where I can actually hack it and then make it all work and then do stuff to it. So Phil does not own me. He doesn't own me, and he can't stop me from doing this. That's the end of it. Definitely. You're very welcome. I'm glad you're excited. I know there's a lot of excited folks. Is Phoenix a browser? That's funny. That's weird, because someone else has asked me that, I think, and I don't actually know, and I don't want to. I'm not going to deviate from my question box to Google, but it might have been a browser project. Awesome, thank you. You're welcome. Yes, go check out the Institute. The course is amazing. It's a great it for a technical user. It won't take you long. For the beginner, intermediate, it'll take you a little time. It's no rush, and you have unlimited access to it. So enjoy. Totally. Awesome. Yes, great stuff coming. More courses, more stuff coming as well. Totally. Great. Thank you. Perfect. Okay. It's mainly just kudos now. People just kind of saying congrats, and probably like crawling around looking at the Funchly repo and looking at the Training Institute. Please have a look at our Twitter feed at twitter.com/Hunchly, and our YouTube channel, which is like, I don't know why YouTube has these crazy long channel names, but just type Hunchly into YouTube and you will land on our channel. All right, perfect. Thank you so much, everyone. I hope this was informative. I hope you learned a little bit. You know how to configure a browser to jump into the dark web. And I'm going to jump over into the 700 other messaging clients that are all lighting up now. And I look forward to seeing you probably next week again, if not the week after. All right, ta-ta for now. We'll see you.